Stop! First thing, totally unrealistic. He just fired a nuclear weapon from his shoulder. I'm Billingham. I spent 27 years in the military, 9 in the Parachute Regiment, 17 to plus years with the SAS. Since leaving the armed forces, I then became head of security for a number of A-lists, including Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. And I'm currently now working in the TV industry as an advisor on SAS Who Dares Wins. The equipment and the little birds with the helicopters is probably quite right. That's exactly how you ride into battle, like these do. Flying down the streets the way we see that is probably a bit unrealistic, bearing in mind it's an hostile environment. Now don't get me wrong, these things can fly under washing lines, they're unbelievable, but I just find that a little bit unrealistic. I'm guessing because of the timelines they had to move in daylight. Okay, the second phase I'm looking at now, they're coming in the Black Hawks and delivering the troops by what we call fast rope, which is the ropes from the side of the aircraft. The unrealism, again, in my eyes, is they're dropping right onto the target, broad daylight, and you basically sit and duck. As for running out in front of a 50 cal weapon, I think that's a little bit OTT. The grenade launcher from a small arms weapon there is totally overkill. What it would do is fragmentation, a little bit of a noise. It certainly wouldn't burst into flame. Okay, so the first incident you see there is what they call a coach option, where they've had to storm a coach for whatever reason, believing there's terrorists on it. Now the drills, the skills and the equipment back in the day is actually very correct, pretty spot on. What we call rehearsals, and what they're rehearsing there is close quarter battle, clearing a building, a stronghold where hostages may be held. The drills and the skills, again, they're exactly as they would. This is a very sort of light roll. They'll do this 5 or 6 times. This is a walk-through, talk-through, then they'll do it a little bit faster, and then eventually they do it in full equipment. So what I'm seeing there is actually pretty accurate. The effect of a grenade is exactly that. It's the only thing missing was probably the noise. There's a little bit more noise to it, but there's no big balls of fire. There's no walls falling in and falling down. That's exactly as it is. It's an Arnie movie. The way he's dressed is just ridiculous. It's all about look at my image as opposed to what I'm trying to do. He's got weapons and guns all over him. He just fired a nuclear weapon from his shoulder. I mean, that is just ridiculous, I've never even seen that sort of rocket launcher anyway. And the other thing is even the enemy are running along and firing from down here, from the hip for some strange reason, and running in front of each other, but no one seems to be shooting. It's just ridiculous, he stood behind a couple of leaves and no one can hit him. Wow, one of those nuclear grenades again that seemed to just destroy everything in a 50-mile radius. Totally unrealistic.
Of course you're afraid.
Okay, my biggest criticism there is you're on operations, you're already in the enemy territory, behind the lines, and your weapons should already be done and ready to go. They're not caught out in the open, then it's a bad use of ground. They should have been in cover. What the anti-tank weapons could do that they've just fired, which is 66, again, totally unrealistic. Unless it's a fuel bowser, it wouldn't burst into flames, so that's just for effect. Impossible. Because of the distance, no matter how good the sights are, and also it's a desert terrain, you know it's possible.
Stay down, the bullets can pierce the windows, but they can't get through the armoured metal. Control Sierra Zulu 79, status 0, Thornton Circus. Control Sierra Zulu 79, status 0, Thornton Circus.
Cool. His sole job is to protect that principle. So reality, rather than curling up in his own seat, I would have crawled into the back and got hold of her, because you don't know what she's going to do. She's going to panic, she's going to raise her head into the glass. It really should have reacted better by being on top of her, getting her down low in the wheel well and protecting her.
Shooter is located on roof of Pasco House 100.
If I got her out of the vehicle, get it down with her and get her moving. He's now starting to, you know, try and take control of the vehicle, which he should have done from the start, to be honest. And again, realistically, he's already said there's one sniper, which is how he identified was a bit unrealistic. He should have just took it up a side street. You can't see everywhere from any sniper position, so. Right, now the biggest problem with this, if you're a bodyguard, his primary role is to look after a principal. He's now left her unattended, all on her own, to go and be an hero. Then he took himself out of the vehicle, leaving her vulnerable. Then he's now left the vehicle to become a hero. Where is she? She's on her own, totally not doing the bodyguard's job. The wearing of shades is very much a Nollywood thing. That doesn't happen. So as you're moving through shade, you lose all perspective. All right, so that's the only fault I see with the equipment and movement from the start.
You mean fall off? Yeah.
What they were actually doing, again, is not unrealistic as in terms of tasks that the military would do. It would be done a lot more covertly. It was a little bit loud. They were not cammed up. For whatever reason, which I find a little bit unrealistic, is the bunching up, where they all just come together, knowing full well that they're being shot at. The big drill is to stay away from each other, because the more together, the bigger the target. Where the rocket-propelled grenade, the RPG-7 landed, and all of a sudden everybody's catapulted in the air, totally unrealistic. What it actually does, it would blow you off your feet to a degree, but you'd be covered in shrapnel and probably have body parts missing. So it's a little bit Hollywoodized with the rolling down the hill and all the rest of the stuff.
My rifle.
The weapon is not a massive priority, really. If it was a person left behind, yes. They've been in contact, they've managed to break contact by falling back, and now they're hidden again. They've really given their position away again by talking too loud and not moving and getting the hell out of it. Stop flying through the air, hanging off the bottom of an helicopter. No, that does not happen. Okay, some of the explosive entry drills, the window charges, pretty realistic. The door, shotgun drills on the door, again, realistic. Also, there's grenades being thrown around in there. Most of this is stun grenades as opposed to fragmentation grenades. The equipment they're wearing, from what I can see, again, is pretty realistic. The synchronised abseiling down the wall is a little bit dramatic, because it takes a while to set up an abseil and do all that sort of stuff. You just wouldn't have time to be able to. It's not like you see in Spider where you can just attach it and go. But it gets into position, and then once it goes noisy, then you go. But it's not synchronised abseiling. Did people get hung up on churches and trees? Yes, it did. You know, when they jumped into and around villages, you got blown all over the place, or you dropped in the wrong place. So that can happen. The way that probably happened is a little bit sort of, again, unrealistic. You know, you come down with one hell of a smash and you probably get badly injured, as opposed to bounce around like you're on a bouncy castle. He's still got his reserve parachute attached to him, and the way to get down is to pull that parachute, because then it'll drop down to the ground, unattach one side and then climb down it. For whatever reason, he decides to watch the show going on below him for a while, and then decides, oh, maybe I should get out, and then starts cutting himself away. So there's bullets and bombs going off all around him, but the Germans still earn the knife fall, which is a bit weird.
He tried to disprove on YouTube also that bullets couldn't hit people if they were going through water.
I've seen people shot in the fucking water. The realism of, you know, the sounds of bullets going past you, but that's shown really, really well.
Military movies, like you have a bit of a love-hate relationship.
When I do find I'm watching anything military orientated, I do tend to be a little bit critical about the scenes. If I had to say I had a favourite movie that is military based, I would say it's Heartbreak Ridge. purely because of the influence of Clint Eastwood, and obviously it's based on a real story. It's a little bit dramatised, but it's actually quite a good movie in my eyes.